Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we're going to take a look at these really cool Jurassic World minifigures. These figures originally had started to show up in Mexico, and we were kind of concerned for quite some time whether or not we would get them here in the United States. However, they've recently started to show up in Dollar Tree stores across the United States, so perfect place for these guys. Can't get any cheaper than $1, and I just recently located them at my store and now have a set. There was actually a ton of them when I was there. Like, the pegs were completely filled with these guys, so lots to go around at my store. Hopefully your guys' stores are the same and you guys can acquire them as well. But the 4 different species that we have here, as you can see already, is a Velociraptor Blue, a Triceratops, a baby Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I guess they're all babies. I don't know why I stated just baby for the T-Rex, and also a Dimetrodon. The Dimetrodon is probably the most random choice out of all of these. I'm really shocked to see a Dimetrodon included here. However, I'm really psyched to see that there is a Dimetrodon included here because that is an awesome addition to this set. There is actually a 5th figure as well, which was recently brought to my attention, and it's a Stegosaurus, but I believe it's exclusive to kind of like this 5-pack that's currently showing up in Mexico. We haven't received it here in the United States. I don't know that we will, so unfortunately anybody that's able to acquire these, you don't technically have the full set because the Stegosaurus is also out there, but it's just a little bit harder to find, unfortunately, and you'd have to rebuy the entire set to get the Stegosaurus, which I'm considering, but I don't know. I haven't decided yet how much I really want that Stego. But again, the figures look really cool here. The actual box art looks pretty nice. You can see it's basically just got the Jurassic World logo up there. Nothing really interesting here on the back, but definitely some fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead, break these out of the packaging, and go straight to a closer look right now. So starting with the Tyrannosaurus Rex, you can see that the little Rex here has a very nice greenish color scheme, so maybe insinuating that it's a male, which is nice to see. But you can also see that as far as the actual head sculpt goes, it looks pretty darn nice overall. You have some nice sculpt and detail for the head sculpt, some nice detailing there around the eye, nicely sculpted out nostrils. The teeth are a little bit sloppy. You can see that the paint is kind of all over the place as far as the teeth go. You can see it's also run up into like the tongue area, and not so good as far as the paint department in the teeth of these figures goes, but aside from that, like, I think it looks pretty nice. You can see the eyes are painted nicely with a yellow coloration, a nice black pupil. Nice same deal over here. They're fairly nicely placed. They don't look too sloppy. You have a nice dark green that kind of runs through the eye socket area up into the palate and then behind the eye as well. Fairly nice looking coloration there for the tongue on the inside of the mouth also. As you start to lead down along the back of the Rex, you can see lots of wrinkles and creasing going on here in the back of the neck region of our Tyrannosaurus. You can also see the upper side of the head also sports some nice detailing. You can see that that dark green starts right there and then leads back along the back of the Rex. And then once we get back here, it starts to kind of leak down and design down all over the side of the Rex, kind of striped down in certain areas. You can see some nice texturing to the skin throughout the figure, even some nice muscle tone displayed in the arms of our little baby Rex. Unfortunately, the nails are not painted, but the hands actually do have quite the nice sculpt to them. You can see that the musculature is nicely present here in the thigh region of our Tyrannosaurus. You can also sort of make out the hip bone, some more really nice musculature displayed in the calf region, as well as the kneecaps present here in the front of the dinosaur. You can see that the foot sculpt also looks really quite nice. The scoot-like appearance down the course of the toes. The nails are nicely sculpted, but unfortunately no nail paint. And then you have a really nice small tail for our Tyrannosaurus with some more mixtures of that darker and lighter green, which I think looks really quite nice. And we even have paint all the way out onto the tail. Even though it is a short tail, it is still nice to see it. It looks pretty much the same over here. You can see that the arms are almost in a totally neutral position. I mean, they're slightly different, it looks like, but for the most part, they're not too far off. The only real difference on this side compared to the previous side would be the positioning of the right leg. It's back a little further in comparison to the left leg. These do actually come with really nice bases, which you can see has like a rocky sort of an area that the dinosaur is standing on, with some vegetation and stuff showing up here and there on the base. They're all just one solid color as far as the bases go. You can see the underside here, but the base is actually really quite nice, helps the figures to stand, and I overall really quite like the Tyrannosaurus that we have here. And then we have our Triceratops, and you can see that as far as a little baby Jurassic Park style Triceratops goes, the sculpt looks really quite nice. You can see the actual detailing, although a little muted in a few areas, looks pretty nice overall. You can see the nostrils sculpted out there. The horns as well as the beak are painted with a nice gray, and then the body primarily is like a light brown, and then you have kind of like this light reddish coloration that runs up along the frill of our Triceratops. You can see some nice scale detail included within the frill area of the Triceratops, as well as these kind of spikes that run along the frill are nicely elaborated on the sculpt, and you can see the eyes are painted with a yellow, given a black pupil, just like we saw in the Rex, although the pupil looks really quite large on this Triceratops, making it even cuter, I think, than it already looked. As you move back here into the body, you can continue to see some really nice texturing to the figure overall, some nice larger scales up here on the top, as well as kind of like a ridge line that runs along the spinal column, almost like a scoot-like appearance to the spinal column of the Triceratops. You see lots of really nice kind of like skin folds and stuff taking shape all over the model. You can see it's really quite nicely sculpted as far as that goes, kind of showing the movement of the Triceratops within the sculpt. The legs look nice and muscular as well. You can see the elbow is present on the front leg, kneecap present on the rear leg, and we actually have toenail paint on the Triceratops, it seems, although it's really sloppily done. But it does look like there was an effort made to give the toenails some paintwork, and you can kind of see that throughout the model here, the figure, but it definitely, again, looks quite sloppy overall as far as that goes. The sculpt on this side doesn't really look too different, again, compared to what we had just seen on the previous side. It looks pretty much the same as far as like the detailing aspect goes. You can see that light red coloration. I would actually say it's more like almost a pink, runs down along the back of the Triceratops as well. But it definitely looks really quite nice overall. And again, as far as a baby version of a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World style Triceratops goes, he's really quite nicely done. And then we have Velociraptor Blue, who doesn't exactly look like the baby Velociraptor Blue that we saw in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. However, it does still look really quite nice. You can see, again, detail-wise, it looks really quite nicely done up here in the head sculpt of our raptor. The teeth, unfortunately, don't have any paint on them at all, which you could see. That's very strange that we had paint on the Tyrannosaurus teeth, but not the raptor. I don't know why they would differentiate the two like that, but you can see the tongue is painted quite nicely, and it also has a bit of a realistic gloss coat in there. The eye also has a nice paint job with the yellow and then a black slit-like pupil, and the blue is not correctly done on this at all. One side on Velociraptor Blue, the paint doesn't run, actually it would be this side, doesn't run all the way up to the eye, and you can see that on the figure it actually does. So that is a little bit of a downside, but in general, looking at the blue stripe, you can see it's not exactly accurate to what Velociraptor Blue actually looks like, because the blue is kind of like all over the place, so it's not perfectly done as far as that goes, but then again, neither is the sculpt. But as far as being just kind of a really cool little off-the-wall, sort of a Velociraptor Blue baby, he does still look quite nice. Looking up here at the top of the head, the actual detailing looks pretty good up there. You see a similar look to the back of the neck like we had seen on the Tyrannosaurus, with like lots of creasing going on as we move down the course of the back of the neck. Again, some scoots that run down the spinal column of this Velociraptor. You can also see some nice muscle tone displayed in the arms right here. The hands look quite nice as far as the detailing aspect goes. You can see they look pretty good. Unfortunately, no nail paint again. The legs are sporting some really nice muscle tone in both the thigh and calf region, as well as a really nice textured appearance to the skin. Like, it's almost hard to pick up on, but as you turn the model, you can actually see that that looks quite nice. Even in the stomach region, you can see some really nice scale detail. You can also pick up on the kneecap right there. As you get down into the foot, again, scoots down the toes, just like we're used to seeing on a Jurassic Park style Velociraptor. And then you can also see the sickle claw is quite nicely sculpted, but again, no paintwork there. And then moving back up into the tail, you have that very nice short and adorable baby dinosaur style tail. Over here on this side, again, it pretty much looks the same. There's no real big difference as far as the sculpt goes, except for the right leg, yet again, is slightly back in comparison to the further leg, just like we had seen with the Tyrannosaurus. And the arms are, again, pretty much in a neutral position. The head's pretty much facing straight forward, but it looks really cool. Again, another base, just like the others have had. They all have that exact same style base. So definitely a fun Velociraptor, even if he's not accurate in sculpt or paint. And then we have the Dimetrodon, who is probably my favorite of the group. The head sculpt actually looks really quite nice. You have some very nice texturing to the face of the Dimetrodon. You can also see the eyes are painted perfectly, very nice and carefully placed. Let's take a look at the opposing side. Same deal over here, really quite nicely placed as far as that goes. You can see that the teeth are present there, but unfortunately they are not painted. You can see the nostrils as well are sculpted out right there. As you move back into the body of the Dimetrodon, you can see like some very large scoots that run along the side of the Dimetrodon. And primarily we have basically like this greenish coloration for the figure, and you can also see up into the sail of the Dimetrodon. You can see that the spines kind of run out with that greenish coloration, but the actual sail is painted with a red, and the sail actually sports some really nice detailing up there as well. You can see that these front legs are up on top of this kind of little ledge, this little uphill area that is on all of the bases, just actually very similar to the Triceratops, the same way he was kind of displayed with the front legs up on that area. We also have the same thing going on for the Dimetrodon, but the actual texturing to the skin actually looks really quite nice. Again, just like I had stated on the previous one, you can see some nice muscle tone displayed in both legs again on the Dimetrodon, just like we had seen on the previous figures. The nails are sculpted out, but yet again, unfortunately, not painted. The only one that received the nail treatment was the Triceratops, and not all that well done either. And then the tail kind of curls around the back of our Dimetrodon over to this side, so you can see that it's pretty much in the exact same position again on this side like we had seen on the previous side, except the tail now is curled up and around. You can also see some more of those kind of scoots that run out the length of the tail. But the figure as a whole looks really quite nice sculpt-wise. Again, I would say it's a perfect representation of that kind of Mattel figure in baby form that we've had as far as the Dimetrodon goes. Quite beautiful overall, same style base. Again, honestly, I absolutely love all four of these figures. Even though they're definitely not the best Mattel figures, they are really quite the adorable bundle of fun. As far as a size goes for these figures, they are really quite small. For a length on the Triceratops, you're looking at right around the 2-inch range, or about 5 centimeters. Height-wise, he's probably 1.5 inches or closing in on 4 centimeters, and they're all fairly similarly sized. I think the biggest difference within the figures would be the height, so we'll actually just go ahead and measure the height of each. So you're about 1 3/4 inches on this one, or about 4.5 centimeters there for Velociraptor Blue. The Tyrannosaurus is right around the 2-inch range, or 5 centimeters, maybe a little bit over, and the Dimetrodon definitely would be the shortest. We'll go from the sail, so it's a little over actually 1.5 inches, or about closing in on 3.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our new Mattel Micro Collection figures, and you can definitely see in comparison to these figures that they are really, really quite small. But at the same time, you know, they're decently sized for being micro figures or mini figures. They do still sport some pretty decent size, and overall I think they have a really nice sculpt and paint application. So for being, you know, just little $1 micro figures, I think they're really quite impressive. So these really cool new micro Mattel Jurassic World figures are definitely a really fun addition to my collection and a fun addition to the Mattel line. And I'm really excited that they finally have arrived here in the United States. And of all places for them to show up at, it's the Dollar Tree. So they're super cheap. $1 for each of these figures, and you get a Jurassic World style dinosaur with a base. You can't really ask for much more than that, even though they're really small and cute. You know, they are still actually quite nicely detailed overall and do have some pretty decent paint application to them. And in fact, they actually kind of look a little better than a lot of the Mattel minis that cost like $3 to $3.50 a piece, and you can get these guys for only $1. Obviously, the other ones, the Mattel minis, are normally meant to imply adults, but in mini form, these ones are obviously meant to imply babies in micro form, but they're still really quite cool overall. I think each and every one of them has a really nice, again, quite highly detailed sculpt for what they are. Even when creating kind of fun little goofy micro figures, Mattel still manages to go the extra mile as far as a sculpt and really give us a quite highly detailed sculpt overall. And the paint application is really quite nicely done. Again, there's not too much to them. They don't include a ton of paint, but they don't usually include a ton of paint on anything, really. But what they have included honestly does look really quite nice. I would say the only one as far as the paint application that I really have a gripe with would be the Velociraptor Blue, because they didn't paint it correctly, which is weird because Mattel always has so far to this point. painted the Velociraptor blues pretty much perfectly, as far as I would say, as far as like getting that blue stripe done correctly, but they didn't on this one. But honestly, I love each and every one of these. My favorite definitely is the Dimetrodon. We've only had one Dimetrodon so far from Mattel, so I'm really happy to see, another Dimetrodon released in another line, even though it's not the best figure in the world, but it's definitely a really, really cool Dimetrodon. The T-Rex looks really quite nice. I love the shades of color that they've given him, and definitely a really fun kind of a baby male T-Rex, which I really quite like as well. Again, Velociraptor Blue, although not accurate in sculpt or paint job, does still look really quite fun overall. And then you also have the Triceratops, which is as well a very appealing looking figure in both the sculpt and paint job. All four really quite nicely detailed. All four include some pretty fun looking paint application. And again, for $1 each, you really can't go wrong. So if you would like to pick these up, make sure you head to your local Dollar Tree, check them out and see if they are in stock, and hopefully they are. Pick them up if you do in fact find them, and otherwise make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.